Ryan Carter wiped the sweat from his brow as the twin suns of Astra began to set. The repair shop's cooling system had broken down again, making the small metal building feel like an oven. Still, he kept working. The powered exosuit on his table wouldn't fix itself, and Sam from the mining crew needed it operational by morning. The shop sat on the edge of New Phoenix Colony, far enough from the main settlement that Ryan could work in peace, but close enough to get parts when needed. From his large bay window, he could see the colony's lights beginning to flicker on as darkness approached. Beyond that stretched miles of red-orange desert, broken only by the occasional rock formation or scrubby plant life. Ryan had come to Astra 5 years ago after leaving Earth's military. He'd been a combat engineer, specializing in field repairs of powered armor suits. On this frontier world, his skills were in high demand. Miners, scouts, security personnel, they all used exosuits to survive Astra's harsh environment and heavy gravity. And they all came to Ryan when those suits broke down. Almost done, he muttered to himself, connecting the final power coupling in Sam's suit. The diagnostic panel lit up green. Ryan smiled. Another job finished. The sound of an approaching vehicle made him look up. Ryan wasn't expecting any more customers today. He set down his tools and walked to the door as the vehicle stopped outside, not a colony rover or transport, but something sleeker that he didn't recognize. The door slid open and a woman stepped out. She was tall and moved with unusual grace, despite her obvious limp. What caught Ryan's attention, however, was what she was wearing or part of it. Under a simple gray cloak, he could see pieces of what looked like exo-armor, but unlike any model he had ever worked on. "Are you the mechanic?" the woman asked. Her voice was clear and carried a subtle accent Ryan couldn't place. "That's me, Ryan Carter. What can I do for you?" The woman glanced around cautiously before speaking again. "I need repairs." She opened her cloak to reveal more of the armor beneath. It was damaged, scorched in places, with a deep puncture near the left side and several cracked sections. Ryan stepped closer, professional curiosity overriding caution. "That's not standard issue, not military, not corporate, ... He circled her, examining the unfamiliar design. "I've never seen anything like this before. Can you fix it?" she asked simply. Ryan scratched his chin. "Maybe. I'd need to take a closer look. Want to step inside?" The woman nodded and followed him into the shop. Under the bright lights, Ryan could see her better. She had short auburn hair and pale skin that suggested she didn't spend much time outdoors. Her eyes were a striking green, alert and intelligent. "My name is Elise," she said, removing her cloak completely to reveal the full armor. It was sleek, form-fitting, and even damaged. It looked more advanced than anything Ryan had ever worked on. It was currently powered down, functioning as basic protection rather than an active exosuit. "What happened to it?" Ryan asked, helping her sit on his examination bench. "I was separated from my escort during a skirmish," she said, offering no further details. Ryan nodded, not pressing for more. Many people on frontier worlds had reasons to keep their business private. "I'll need to remove it to work on it properly." Elise hesitated, then nodded. "There's a release mechanism here," she sighed, pointing to a spot near her collar that Ryan would have missed. He pressed it and the armor separated along invisible seams, allowing Elise to step out of it. Without the armor, she wore a simple black bodysuit. Ryan tried not to stare as he took the armor pieces and arranged them on his workbench. "This is going to take some time," he said, examining the unusual materials. "Some of these components, I've never seen alloys like this." "But you can fix it?" Elise asked again, watching him closely. Ryan looked up at her, then back at the armor. This was well beyond his usual repairs, but something about the challenge appealed to him. Plus, he sensed Elise was in some kind of trouble. "I can try." "No promises, but I've got a knack for figuring things out." Elise seemed to relax slightly. "That's all I ask." As Ryan began his examination, he noticed strange symbols etched into intersections of the armor. They didn't match any corporate logos or military insignia he recognized. When he pointed to them, Elise simply said, "Family markings?" and changed the subject. Hours passed as Ryan worked. The sun had fully set, and New Phoenix Colony was quiet except for the distant hum of the perimeter shield. Elise watched Ryan work with curious interest, studying his methods and tools. "You're very resourceful," she commented as Ryan jury-rigged a device to test the armor's power system. Ryan shrugged. "Out here you have to be. We don't get supply ships very often. You learn to make do with what you have. And yet you succeed where others with more resources might fail," she observed. Ryan looked up, surprised by the comment. "Is that a compliment?" A small smile appeared on Elise's face. "Simply an observation." As the night wore on, Ryan discovered the armor's complexity went far beyond what he had initially thought. The damage was extensive, but the technology was fascinating. Microservos smaller than any he'd seen, power conduits that seemed to shift and adapt, materials that felt like liquid one moment and solid the next. "This will take several days to repair properly," he finally told Elise. "And I might need to fabricate some replacement parts." Elise nodded. "I have time." She paused, then asked, "Is there somewhere nearby I could stay?" Ryan thought for a moment. New Phoenix was small, and strangers were noticed. If Elise was trying to keep a low profile, the colony's single boarding house wouldn't be ideal. "There's a spare room in the back," he offered. "Nothing fancy, but it's private." "That would be acceptable," Elise said. "Thank you." As Ryan showed her to the small room behind his workshop, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was much more to Elise than she was revealing. The advanced technology of her armor, her unusual manner of speaking, the way she carried herself all suggested someone far removed from the usual frontier travelers. "I'll get started again first thing tomorrow," Ryan promised as he left her. At the door, Elise nodded. "I appreciate your assistance, Ryan Carter." Later that night, as Ryan lay in his own bed above the workshop, he thought about the strange armor and its even stranger owner. Who was Elise really? And what kind of skirmish had she been involved in? The frontier was dangerous, but technology, like hers, suggested resources far beyond a typical colonist or even military officer. Whatever the truth, Ryan knew one thing for certain: his life had just become a lot more interesting. Morning came with the harsh light of Astra's twin suns streaming through the workshop windows. Ryan had been up for hours already, carefully examining the strange components of Elise's armor. He had never seen such advanced technology. The more he worked on it, the more he realized how far beyond human engineering it truly was. Elise entered the workshop, moving with that same unusual grace despite her injury. She wore the same black bodysuit from yesterday, her auburn hair neatly combed. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked, noticing the dark circles under Ryan's eyes. Ryan shook his head. "Too excited. This tech is amazing." He held up a small power cell from her armor. "This tiny thing puts out more energy than the colony's backup generator. How is that possible?" Elise smiled slightly. "Different manufacturing techniques." "Different is an understatement," Ryan muttered. He gestured to the armor laid out on his workbench. "I've identified the major damage. The power distribution system is compromised, and there's structural damage to the left side. I can fix most of it, but some components I'll need to improvise." "Do what you can," Elise said. "I trust your skills." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know me." "I'm a good judge of character," she replied simply. As Ryan worked through the morning, Elise stayed nearby, watching with evident interest. Sometimes she asked questions about his techniques or tools. Other times she gazed out the window at the colony and the desert beyond, lost in thought. During a break to eat some simple ration bars, Ryan decided to ask a few questions of his own. "So where are you from?" "You're definitely not from around here." Elise paused before answering. Place very far from here, beyond the Orion Arm." Ryan's eyes widened. "That's unexplored territory. No human ships have gone that far." "I didn't say it was a human settlement," Elise replied calmly. Ryan stared at her, not sure if she was joking. But her expression remained serious. "You're saying you're not human?" "I didn't say that either." Elise took a bite of her ration bar, grimacing slightly at the taste. Let's just say I come from a civilization that has been watching yours for some time. Ryan wanted to ask more, but the sound of a colony transport approaching made them both look toward the door. Ryan walked to the window. It's just Sam, picking up his mining suit. The burly miner entered a moment later, his beard dusty from the morning shift. He stopped short when he saw Elise. Didn't know you had company, Ryan. Client, Ryan explained, moving to get Sam's repaired suit from the back room. All fixed up, good as new. Sam kept glancing at Elise, who met his gaze calmly. Haven't seen you around before, he said to her. I'm just passing through, Elise replied. Sam nodded slowly. Well, safe travels then. He turned to Ryan as he handed over the suit. Hey, you hear about those strange ships people spotted last night? Colony defense is all worked up about it. Ryan frowned. What strange ships? Big ones, up in orbit. Not colonial, not Earth military. Some folks are saying they just appeared out of nowhere, Sam lowered his voice. Governor's called an emergency meeting. Thought you should know. After Sam left, Ryan turned to Elise. Friends of yours? Elise's expression had changed, becoming more guarded. Perhaps, or perhaps not. I should check something. She moved to her armor and pressed a hidden section that Ryan hadn't noticed before. A small compartment opened, revealing a device unlike anything Ryan had seen. It was small, transparent, and seemed to glow from within. Elise held it up, and it projected a holographic display with symbols similar to those on her armor. Ryan watched in amazement. That's some serious tech. That device it's for communication? Elise nodded, studying the display with a frown. Yes, but it's not working properly. The crash damaged it. She looked at Ryan. Could you help me repair this too? Ryan took the device carefully. It felt warm to the touch, almost alive. I can try. But this is way beyond anything I've worked with before. The principles are the same, Elise encouraged him. You just need to connect the right components. As Ryan began examining the communication device, he realized it was designed to transmit signals across vast distances, far greater than any human technology could manage. This wasn't just advanced tech. It was something that shouldn't exist by the laws of physics as he understood them. Who are you really? Ryan asked quietly, looking up at Elise. Elise met his gaze steadily. Someone who needs your help right now. Ryan worked through the afternoon and into the evening on both the armor and the communication device. The more he learned about how they functioned, the more questions he had. But Elise only gave vague answers, redirecting the conversation whenever it ventured too close to her origins. As night fell, a distant alarm sounded from the colony center. Ryan looked up from his work. That's the perimeter alert. Something's happening. Elise moved to the window, her posture tense. We may not have as much time as I hoped. Ryan joined her at the window. In the distance, lights were moving near the colony's main gate. Are those ships coming for you? Some may be looking for me, Elise admitted, but not all with good intentions. The alarm continued to wail as colony defense forces mobilized. Ryan could see figures running, hear the distant sound of orders being shouted. You need to tell me what's really going on, Ryan insisted. If the colony's in danger, it's not the colony they want, Elise interrupted. It's me. As if to emphasize her point, the communication device suddenly lit up brightly, projecting a larger hologram. Strange symbols scrolled rapidly, and a voice spoke in a language Ryan had never heard before. Elise responded in the same language, her voice taking on a tone of authority that made Ryan look at her with new eyes. When the communication ended, Elise turned to Ryan. That was a warning. Ships have entered this system that are not friendly to me or to your colony. Who are they? Pirates? Raiders? Elise shook her head. Rebels? They oppose the peace between our worlds. Our worlds? Ryan repeated. So you are from another civilization. Elise sighed, seeming to make a decision. Yes, one that spans hundreds of star systems across 3 spiral arms of this galaxy. We've been watching Earth and its colonies for generations, waiting for the right time to make contact. Ryan stared at her, trying to process this information. And you're what? An ambassador? A small, sad smile crossed Elise's face. Not exactly. She looked at her partially repaired armor. How quickly can you finish the repairs? We may need to leave soon. Leave? Where would we go? Somewhere safe, Elise said. Away from the colony. Those rebels will search here first. Ryan looked from the armor to Elise, then to the colony beyond the window where people were rushing about in response to the alarm. Nothing made sense, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that everything Elise said was true. I can have it operational by morning, he said finally. Not perfect, but functional. That will have to be enough, Elise replied, turning her gaze to the night sky where, invisible to human eyes, ships were moving into position around the small frontier world. We don't have much time. Dawn was still hours away when Ryan finished the essential repairs on Elise's armor. His fingers ached and his eyes burned from the detailed work, but he felt a sense of pride as the suit's systems hummed to life, power flowing through circuits. He had mended with makeshift parts and clever workarounds. It's not pretty, but it works, he told Elise, who had been alternating between watching him work and monitoring her communication device. The left side is still weak, and I couldn't fully restore the power output, but it should protect you and enhance your strength. Elise ran her hand over the repaired sections. Impressive work with such limited resources? The colony alarm had stopped several hours ago, but Ryan could still see unusual activity through his window. Colony defense vehicles patrolled the streets, and spotlights swept the desert beyond the perimeter. We should go soon, Elise said, her voice low and urgent. My sensors indicate ships landing on the far side of the settlement, Ryan frowned. How do you know that? The colony's radar can't detect landings that far out. Instead of answering, Elise began putting on her armor. The pieces sealed together smoothly around her body, the strange material adapting to her form. When she was fully suited, only her head remained uncovered. She looked stronger, taller somehow. I need your help for a little longer, she said. Guide me to somewhere safe, away from the colony, somewhere we can hide until my people find me. Ryan hesitated. Leaving the safety of the colony at night was dangerous. Astra's nocturnal predators were aggressive, and the desert temperatures dropped well below freezing. But staying might be more dangerous if whoever was hunting Elise didn't care about collateral damage. There are some old mining tunnels about 5 miles east, he said finally. They were abandoned when the main or vein ran dry. Not comfortable, but well hidden, Elise nodded. Perfect. Pack whatever you need quickly. Ryan grabbed his emergency bag, always kept ready in case of colony emergencies, and added a few extra tools that might help with the armor if it needed further repairs. As he worked, a thought struck him. I can't keep calling you just Elise. Can I? That's not your real name? A small smile crossed her face. It's close enough to my real name for your language. The full version would be difficult for you to pronounce. Ryan wanted to ask more, but the sound of vehicles approaching cut him off. He peered through the window and saw 2 colonial security rovers heading toward his shop. Time to go, he said, moving to the back door. They're coming here. They slipped out through the rear of the workshop just as the security rovers pulled up in front. Ryan led Elise away from the colony lights, keeping to the shadows of rock formations that dotted the landscape. The armor made Elise surprisingly quiet despite its bulk, and she moved with ease despite her earlier limp. They had covered less than a mile when shouts echoed behind them. Ryan glanced back to see flashlight beams sweeping the area around his shop. They know we've gone, he whispered, and they'll figure out which direction soon enough. Elise nodded, her face barely visible in the starlight. We need to move faster. She pressed something on her armor, and the helmet formed around her head, seeming to flow up from the collar like liquid metal before hardening into a sleek, featureless surface. Her voice came through the helmet, slightly distorted. Get on my back, Ryan stared at her. What? This armor enhances my strength. I can carry you and move much faster than you can run. Feeling slightly ridiculous, Ryan climbed onto her back. Elise secured him with some kind of energy field that extended from the armor, holding him firmly in place without restraining his movement. Then she began to run. It was unlike anything Ryan had experienced. Elise moved with incredible speed, leaping over boulders and crossing sandy stretches that would have slowed a normal person to a crawl. The ground blurred beneath them as she ran. Her armor systems compensating for the extra weight as if Ryan wasn't there at all. They reached the abandoned mining tunnels in less than 30 minutes, a journey that should have taken hours on foot. Elise set Ryan down at the main entrance, a dark opening in the side of a low hill. That was ... Ryan struggled to find words, his heart still racing from the journey. You're definitely not a normal diplomat. Elise's helmet retracted, revealing her face again. I never claimed to be a diplomat. Inside the tunnels, Ryan activated a small light from his emergency pack. The beam revealed rusty tracks where ore carts had once run, support beams holding up the ceiling, and various abandoned mining equipment. They moved deeper into the tunnel system, finding a large chamber where multiple passages intersected. This should be safe for now, Ryan said, setting down his pack. We can rest here. Elise nodded and removed her helmet again, but kept the rest of her armor on. She examined their surroundings with interest, particularly some unusual rock formations. Along one wall, these tunnels are older than your mining operation, she observed. Running her hand over strange circular patterns in the stone, Ryan moved closer, shining his light on the patterns. They were too regular to be natural. You think someone else dug these tunnels first? Not someone else? Something else? Elise's eyes gleamed in the dim light. This planet was home to a non-human civilization long before your people arrived. Before Ryan could ask more questions, a distant sound echoed through the tunnels, the unmistakable hum of vehicles. They followed us, he whispered. Turning off his light, Elise activated something on her armor, and a holographic display appeared, showing heat signatures moving toward the tunnel entrance. Not colony security, she said grimly. Their weapons are too advanced. Ryan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the tunnel's temperature. Then who? The rebels I told you about? They must have infiltrated your colony. Elise's expression hardened. Stay behind me. As the sounds grew closer, Elise moved to a defensive position near the chamber entrance, her armor glowing faintly with built-up energy. Ryan grabbed a length of metal pipe from the mining debris, knowing it would be useless against advanced weapons, but unwilling to stand by empty-handed. The first figure that appeared in the tunnel entrance wore armor similar to Elise's but darker, with red markings. It raised a weapon that hummed with energy. What happened next occurred too quickly for Ryan to fully process. Elise moved with blinding speed, crossing the chamber in a blur. Her armor flared with light as she struck the intruder with enough force to send them flying backward into their companions. Energy weapons fired, filling the tunnel with blinding flashes and the smell of ozone. Ryan ducked behind a boulder as the firefight intensified. Through gaps in the rock, he could see Elise fighting with a skill and power that seemed impossible. Her armor deflected energy blasts, and she moved with the precision of someone trained in combat for decades. When the last attacker fell, Elise turned back to Ryan, her armor smoking slightly from weapon impacts but otherwise intact. Are you hurt? She asked, her voice calm despite the violence that had just occurred. Ryan shook his head, stepping out from behind the boulder. No, but who are you really? No one fights like that without years of training. Elise looked down at the fallen attackers, then back at Ryan. You're right. It's time I told you the truth, but first we need to secure this area. More will come. Ryan helped Elise drag the fallen attackers into a side tunnel. There were 5 of them, all wearing armor similar to Elise's but less advanced. Their weapons were unlike anything Ryan had seen before, sleek devices that seemed to channel energy rather than fire physical projectiles. Are they dead? Ryan asked, looking at the still forms. Elise shook her head. Just unconscious. My armor has non-lethal combat settings. She removed a small device from each attacker's armor. Tracking beacons. We should move deeper into the tunnels. Ryan led the way through the winding passages, his small light casting long shadows on the rough walls. They passed more of the strange circular patterns that suggested these tunnels existed long before human miners discovered them. After walking for nearly half an hour, they found a large chamber with a high ceiling. Strange crystals embedded in. The walls gave off a faint blue glow, providing just enough light to see by. Ryan turned off his light to conserve its power. "This should be safe for now," he said, setting down his pack. "Now, you promised to tell me the truth. Who are you really?" Elise sighed and pressed a sequence on her armor. It powered down partially, becoming less rigid while still providing protection. She sat on a flat rock and gestured for Ryan to join her. "My full name is Elysaria Nix Cygnus," she began. "I am the Empress of the Cygnus Collective, a federation of over 300 star systems spanning 3 spiral arms of this galaxy." Ryan stared at her, trying to process her words. "Empress? As in ... ruler?" "Yes, I am the sovereign leader of my people." Elisor Elysaria spoke matter-of-factly, as if discussing something as ordinary as the weather. "Our civilization has existed for over 12,000 of your Earth years. We have been observing humanity since your first radio signals reached our monitoring stations." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, struggling to believe what he was hearing. "So you're telling me I've been helping the ruler of most of the galaxy? A significant portion, yes?" A small smile crossed her face. "And you did an excellent job repairing my armor. But why are you here, on Astra, alone?" Ryan had dozens of questions swirling in his mind. Elysaria's expression grew more serious. "I came to assess humanity's readiness for first contact. My advisors were divided on whether your species was prepared to join the galactic community. I decided to see for myself." She stood and paced the chamber, her movements graceful despite the weight of her armor. "My ship was attacked as we approached your solar system. The rebels who attacked us oppose bringing humans into the collective. They believe your species is too unpredictable, too dangerous." "And what do you believe?" Ryan asked quietly. Elysaria turned to him. "I believe that any species capable of creating individuals like you people who help strangers without question, who can repair advanced technology with primitive tools through sheer ingenuity, deserves a chance to join us." Before Ryan could respond, a soft chime sounded from Elysaria's communication device. She activated it, and a holographic display appeared above her palm. The symbols scrolled rapidly, and a voice spoke in that strange language Ryan had heard. Before, Elysaria responded briefly, then turned to Ryan. "My Imperial Guard has arrived in orbit. They've driven off the rebel ships and are preparing to send a recovery team." "Oh, it's over?" Ryan asked, feeling oddly disappointed. "You'll leave?" "Soon, yes. I must return to the capital. The attack on my ship was part of a larger rebellion that threatens the stability of the collective." She paused, studying Ryan's face. "You seem troubled by this news." Ryan struggled to express the mix of emotions he was feeling. "It's just a lot to take in. Yesterday I was just a mechanic on a frontier world. Today I'm talking to the ruler of most of the galaxy in a cave." Elysaria's communication device chimed again. The holographic display showed a map of the planet's surface with 2 blinking points of light moving toward their location. "My guard will be here soon," she said. "You should prepare to leave with us?" Ryan blinked in surprise. "Leave? With you?" "Yes, it's not safe for you to return to the colony. The rebels know you helped me. They may seek revenge." She hesitated, then added more softly, "Besides, I could use someone with your skills. Few in my empire understand how to adapt and improvise as you do." Before Ryan could respond, a rumbling sound echoed through the tunnels. Dust fell from the ceiling as the ground shook beneath their feet. "What was that?" Ryan asked, steadying himself against the wall. Elysaria's expression darkened. "The rebels? They're using mining charges to collapse the tunnels." She checked her armor's display. "They're trying to cut us off from my approaching guards." Another explosion, closer this time, sent more dust and small rocks raining down. A crack appeared in the ceiling of their chamber. "We need to move," Ryan said urgently. "This whole place could come down." They hurried through the tunnels, moving away from the explosions. Ryan's knowledge of mining operations helped him predict which passages would be most stable. While Elisaria's armor sensors warned them of weakened sections ahead, they had almost reached the surface when the most powerful explosion yet shook the entire tunnel system. The passage behind them collapsed completely, and cracks raced along the ceiling above them. "Run!" Ryan shouted, pushing Elisaria forward as chunks of rock began to fall. They burst out of the tunnel entrance just as it collapsed behind them. Ryan stumbled and fell to his knees, coughing in the cloud of dust that billowed out from the tunnel. When the dust cleared, Ryan saw they were surrounded. A dozen figures in black armor with red markings stood in a semicircle, weapons aimed at them. Their leader stepped forward, helmet retracting to reveal a face similar to Elisaria's but harsher, with a long scar running from temple to jaw. "Empress," the leader said, the word dripping with contempt. "Your misguided rule ends today." Elisaria stepped in front of Ryan protectively. "Commander Vex, I should have known you were behind this rebellion," Vex smiled coldly. "The collective has grown soft under your leadership. Humans are a primitive, violent species. Bringing them into our civilization would be disastrous." "You haven't even given them a chance," Elisaria argued. This human behind me repaired technology he'd never seen before, using tools centuries behind our own. Vex glanced at Ryan dismissively. "One clever monkey doesn't change the nature of the species." Ryan felt anger rise in his chest at the insult, but before he could speak, the sky above them lit up with brilliant light. Everyone looked up to see three massive ships descending through the clouds, their sleek designs unlike the boxy colony vessels Ryan was used to. Vex cursed and shouted orders to his soldiers. They raised their weapons toward the approaching ships, but it was too late. Beams of blue light shot down from the largest vessel, surrounding Elisaria and Ryan in a protective bubble of energy. The rebel weapons fired, but their blasts dissipated harmlessly against the shield. "This isn't over, Empress," Vex snarled as more beams of light touched down around them, materializing into armored figures with the same insignia Ryan had seen. On Elisaria's armor, the Imperial Guards quickly formed a protective ring around Elisaria and Ryan. Their leader approached and dropped to one knee before Elisaria. "Your Majesty," the guard said, helmet retracting to reveal a woman with features similar to Elisaria's. "The palace feared the worst when we lost contact." Ryan stared in shock as all the guards knelt before Elisaria. Despite her earlier confession, seeing others treat her with such reverence made her identity as Empress suddenly overwhelmingly real. Elisaria acknowledged her guards with a nod, then turned to Ryan. "This is Ryan Carter. He saved my life and repaired my armor when I was stranded. He is under my personal protection." The guard captain looked at Ryan with new interest, then bowed her head. "Then he has the gratitude of the entire collective." "And mine as well." As the rebels were surrounded and captured, Ryan stood silently beside Elisaria, trying to process everything that had happened. In just 2 days, his entire understanding of the universe had changed forever. Elisaria placed a hand on his shoulder. "Are you ready to see the stars, Ryan Carter?" Ryan stood on the observation deck of the Imperial flagship, gazing at the stars. Without planetary atmosphere to distort the view, they shone with a clarity and brightness he had never seen before. The planet Astra was now a small blue-red sphere. Below them, growing more distant by the minute, 3 days had passed since the confrontation with Commander Vex and his rebels. Ryan had spent most of that time aboard the flagship, trying to adjust to his new reality. The ship itself was a marvel of engineering, with technology so advanced it seemed like magic. Doors opened before he reached them, food appeared in dispensers. Add a thought, and gravity adjusted automatically as he moved through different sections. "Enjoying the view?" Elisaria's voice came from behind him. Ryan turned to see the Empress approaching. She wore formal attire now instead of armor flowing, robes of a shimmering material that seemed to capture and reflect starlight. A simple silver circlet rested on her head, the only obvious sign of her royal status. "It's incredible," Ryan admitted. "I never thought I'd see space like this." Elisaria stood beside him at the viewport. "The first time is always special. I remember my first journey beyond my homeworld. I was very young, but I still recall the wonder of it. Ryan glanced at her. Without the urgency of survival, he found himself curious about her. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? A small smile crossed her face. By your Earth measurement, I am 142 years old. My species lives considerably longer than humans. I am considered quite young for an empress. Ryan tried not to show his shock. She looked no older than 30 by human standards. And the collective you rule, how big is it really? 317 inhabited star systems, with over 2,000 colonized worlds and space habitats. Elysaria gestured to the stars beyond the viewport. About 8% of this galaxy falls under our protection. The scale of... It was almost impossible for Ryan to comprehend. His entire life had been spent on Earth and then Astra, two tiny dots in an ocean of stars. What happens now? He asked, the question that had been on his mind since leaving Astra. Now we travel. To the capital world, Cygnus Prime. The rebellion must be addressed. Elysaria's expression grew more serious. Commander Vex and his followers represent a significant faction within the collective. They fear change, especially the inclusion of new species like humanity. And what do you want? For humanity, I mean. Elysaria was quiet for a moment before answering. I believe every intelligent species deserves the chance to join the wider galactic community, to contribute their unique perspective and abilities. She turned to face Ryan directly. Your repairs to my armor proved what I've long suspected: humans possess exceptional adaptability and ingenuity. Where others see only primitive technology, I see potential. A soft chime sounded, and one of the Imperial guards approached. He bowed to Elysaria. Your Majesty, the Council is assembled for the emergency session. They await your presence. Elysaria nodded. Tell them I will join shortly. After the guard left, she turned back to Ryan. Would you accompany me? The Council should meet the human who saved their Empress. Ryan felt a flutter of nervousness. I'm not exactly dressed for an Imperial Council meeting. He gestured to his worn mechanic's clothes, still stained with grease and dust from Astra. Elysaria smiled. Let them see you as you are. It will make an impression they won't soon forget. The council chamber was a vast circular room with a domed ceiling that displayed a real-time map of the collective's territory. 12 beings sat at a curved table facing a central platform. Some looked similar to Elysaria, but others had distinctly non-human features, scales, multiple eyes, or skin colors impossible for humans. Conversation stopped as Elysaria entered with Ryan at her side. The council members rose and bowed deeply. Empress Elysaria, the eldest counselor said, his voice deep and resonant. We rejoice at your safe return. Elysaria stepped onto the central platform, gesturing for Ryan to join her. Honored Council, I present Ryan Carter of Earth, currently of the colony world Astra. When my ship was attacked and I was separated from my guard, it was Ryan who provided shelter and repaired my damaged armor, risking his own safety to protect me. The council members studied Ryan with varying expressions of curiosity, surprise, and in a few cases, clear disapproval. A human? One counselor said, her silver-scaled skin catching the light as she moved. This confirms our fears, Empress. Your interest in this primitive species led you into danger. On the contrary, Elysaria replied firmly. It was a human who ensured my safety. With limited tools and no prior knowledge of our technology, Ryan repaired systems that our own engineers spend years learning to maintain. The eldest counselor leaned forward. Is this true, human? You repaired Imperial armor? Ryan swallowed. Nervously, but stood straight. I did what needed to be done. The technology was advanced, but the principles were similar enough to work with. Sometimes having fewer resources forces you to find creative solutions. His simple statement caused a stir among the counselors. They conferred among themselves in low voices while Ryan stood awkwardly beside Elysaria. Finally, the eldest counselor addressed the Empress again. The attack on your vessel was more serious than we initially thought. Commander Vex's rebellion has spread to 12 systems. They claim that bringing humans into the collective will destabilize the peace we've maintained for millennia. Peace requires adaptation, Elysaria responded. Species that cannot grow together will grow apart. I have seen humanity's potential firsthand. She placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. I propose we accelerate the integration process. Earth should be offered membership in the collective immediately. The council erupted in debate. Some councilors vehemently opposed the idea, while others cautiously supported it. Ryan listened, amazed that the future of his entire species was being decided in this room. As the debate intensified, alarms suddenly blared throughout the chamber. The star map above them shifted, showing red warning symbols near the ships. Current position. Rebel vessels approaching, a guard announced. They've somehow tracked us. Elysaria's expression remained calm despite the crisis. Counselors, please proceed to the secure chambers. This is likely another assassination attempt. As the council members were escorted out, Ryan turned to Elysaria. Let me help. I know how their armor works now. I might be able to find a weakness. Elysaria studied him for a moment, then nodded. Come with me to the command center. The ship's command center was a hive of activity as officers prepared for battle. Holographic displays showed multiple enemy vessels on an intercept course. They're targeting our engines? The fleet commander reported. Standard rebel tactics disable, then board. Ryan examined the tactical displays. Their ships look similar to yours, but with modifications. Are they using older models? Yes, Elysaria confirmed. Decommissioned vessels repurposed for combat. An idea formed in Ryan's mind. The armor you wore, it had an unusual power distribution system. Do your ships use the same technology? When Elysaria nodded, Ryan continued. The rebels might be using the same basic systems, just older versions. If we can create a specific energy pulse at the right frequency, working with the ships. Engineers, Ryan helped design a countermeasure based on his knowledge of the armor systems. It was a desperate gamble, but when the rebel ships came within range, the Imperial flagship emitted a precisely calibrated energy wave. The effect was immediate. The rebel vessels' power systems fluctuated and failed, leaving them drifting and vulnerable. Imperial forces quickly moved in to capture the disabled ships. In the aftermath, Ryan found himself celebrated as a hero among the Imperial crew. The story spread quickly how a human mechanic from a frontier world had helped save the Empress twice and disabled an entire rebel fleet with his understanding of their technology. A week later, as they approached Cygnus Prime, Elysaria summoned Ryan to the throne room. He entered to find her seated on a simple but elegant chair, with the council standing nearby. Ryan Carter, Elysaria said formally, the collective owes you a debt that cannot easily be repaid. In recognition of your service, I offer you a choice. You may return to Astra with our gratitude and protection, or you may remain with us as Earth's first official representative to the Cygnus Collective. Ryan looked around at the advanced technology, the diverse beings, and the vast opportunities that stretched before him. Then he looked at Elysaria, who watched him with quiet hope in her eyes. I think I'll stay, he said. Someone needs to show your engineers how to improvise. Elysaria smiled, a genuine expression of joy that transformed her regal features. Then let it be recorded that on this day, humanity took its first step into the greater galaxy. And it began because a mechanic fixed an Empress's armor, unaware she was the ruler of a galaxy.